Welcome back to Foodie Down Bronx. I'm your host, the Hungry Dominican. Our next guest is an award-winning fashion photographer who recently started shifting her focus to the food industry. She also joined me at last April's Foodie Down Bronx panel, and I say this without hesitation. Her food photography is out of this world.
Aw.
And I'm high-key jealous of her skills. Please welcome Nikki Gomez.
Aw, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gomez, for joining me here.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Pineda.
So the first question I have to ask you is the most obvious. Why would you all of a sudden turn your shift to the food industry?
Well, who doesn't love food? I mean, I love food, and as you know, I love to cook, and a lot of times I would photograph the food that I cook, and I'm like, oh, that looks really nice, and maybe I could do this, and I'm like, no, I'm just going to stick with what I know, and then, running around with you to some of these restaurants, and your encouragement also just, you encouraged me to just give it a try. And the more I did it, the more I loved it, and it almost felt like it came like second nature. So
It's a pretty good gig, right?
yeah, it's super fun.
Running around,
Eating,
taking
pretty pictures.
pretty pictures.
Yeah.
How long were you a fashion photographer before you jumped over to the food scene?
About 12 years.
12 years.
Yeah, 12 years. So since
Wow.
around 2007.
Consistently or on and off?
I'd say like as a business where it's my sole income on and off, but I'd always done it. Even when I was doing other things, I still was shooting on the side and just trying to make it happen.
So which, do we know anybody you've shot? Any models or bloggers out there that are pretty big on Instagram?
I feel like I've shot everyone. I know you can look at, a lot of people know Denise Bedeau. I got to shoot Denise Bedeau. Lorna Litz, she used to have a show called Curvy Girls. I got to shoot Lorna Litz. There's just, it's so many because I helped start careers as well. So I started some people out in the industry before they even got started in modeling. And then I've also shot a lot of established models. So in my mind, there's now hundreds.
Right.
Yeah.
And you were on a reality show yourself?
I was on TLC's Big Sexy.
Wow. When was that? When
When
did that happen?
That was in 2011, which feels like a lifetime ago now. But yeah, it's 2011.
2011.
It was super fun.
So running around with me and eating all this great food, that's what basically made you go into the food scene. How do you find that versus fashion photography? And I don't mean just, dealing with the people, but from an artistic standpoint,
Yeah.
what's the difference between fashion photography and food photography?
For
Besides, of course, the most obvious thing, which is you're shooting people and food, but there's more levels to photography than just pointing a camera and shooting something. So what do you find is the biggest difference between those two?
Well, first of all, I want to say each thing inspires the other and also inspires creativity in me to shoot the other. So, for instance, shooting models for so long and people in general, I kind of got stuck in, and I wouldn't say a rut because it's always fun, it's always exciting, but creatively you want to keep challenging yourself.
Right.
So when I moved into food, it was a new creative challenge that ultimately also had me shoot people differently.
Right.
If that makes sense. So when I started shooting food, if you look at some of my work, I embrace shadows more with food and light. And when I was shooting people for a long time, it was just light. And I wasn't embracing some of the shadows and the depth that I can get from shooting people.
Right.
And so now they've kind of merged artistically for me. And so I've embraced a little bit more of the shadows and the darkness. And then, also with the light. Also, editing-wise, shooting food is a lot easier to edit than people. Because people...
It's a bit quicker, right?
A lot quicker, yeah. Yeah, with people, you have to think about skin, skin tone, all of that. And you want to make them look almost as flawless as they can, but also looking natural.
So you feel that food photography has also helped you with your fashion photography?
100%. Yeah, 100%. It still helps me. Yeah.
Right. What are the places you like to shoot, or I guess your favorite places in the Bronx to eat at, which you've created content for? Like any, restaurants or... Because you did have the cover of the last Edible Bronx issue that popped out.
Yes.
Where you shot at Suyo Gastrofusion.
Yeah, Suyo was great. I mean, the food there is amazing. The creativity and passion behind the people who do everything there, the drinks and the menu and everything, it's palpable. So shooting that was easy. Seis Vecinos offers a lot of colorful, beautiful food as well, and lends itself to some food porn, if I can say that, with the cheese and all of the yummy things that come out of pupusas. So Yeah, those are some of my favorite places. Also, like some pizza places. You know, you gotta think about like Louie and Ernie's has giant
Yeah.
sausages on their pizza that looks
All the
amazing.
way over in Throgsneck.
In Throgsneck, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's another place I love, like capturing some of their food too.
Your aesthetic has a very editorial look. If you look at your feed at Food by the Nikki Gomez, it looks like everything belongs in a magazine.
Yeah.
You have a very clean aesthetic, very classy look. Are you opposed to food porn? Are you opposed to like that really crazy, sharp, saturated, cheesy look, or do you just sort of stay in your lane and sort of, you go for what you go for?
I wouldn't say I'm opposed to food porn. I definitely can appreciate it. As you know, I love egg yolk porn.
Yes, you do.
That's pretty beautiful, and,
Yes,
and
you're
videos
obsessed
of
with it.
yolk spilling out of things it just gets me every time, deep in the heart. But as far as my photography, for some reason, naturally, I'm just drawn to a more editorial aesthetic. So I
Right.
just follow that since it just seems to be a natural expression of what I shoot.
Right. But I think that's is that a? I guess it's because of your fashion photography.
I think so. It
Right.
might be. I mean, it might just be years and years of loving and appreciating magazines. Because I think a lot of my fashion eye comes from first modeling and knowing how things should look based on being a model and trying to create it on this side of things.
Right.
And then also from, just growing up and looking at all the magazines, Glamour, Vogue, all of those magazines, and it just kind of imprints in your mind. And I think the food photos in those, even with their ads, imprinted in my mind, and that
Right.
kind of comes out when I shoot.
So when you're shooting for food, you would be more like Bon Appetit type stuff.
I feel like less Martha Stewart, nothing against that lifestyle thing, but less maybe Martha Stewart, more New York Times, cooking, Bon Appetit, Xavier type of vibe.
The whole like flat lay thing where you have the camera above the actual plate.
Sometimes I like being in the plate,
the plate.
but I also embrace, like I said, the shadows and the depth, so that way everything kind of pops out at you as opposed to everything just being whitewashed. Because
Right.
sometimes if it's too much light for my taste, it looks very whitewashed.
Right. That's what you're saying.
But I like color and saturation.
Right. Okay. So going back to because you had mentioned Louie and Ernie's in Throgsneck, but we
Yeah.
can't forget about the other location in Throgsneck, Tommy's
Yes.
Pizza,
So good.
which I kind of want to get you to shoot them because we haven't visited them yet
Okay,
since you've like embarked on your
that's true.
food journey. So we have to make an effort to go shoot.
Oh, I already have pictures in my mind of exactly what I want to shoot. It just
I mean,
popped
we
in.
can't we can't do it until I'm out of this whole vegan thing.
Well,
But it's only one more month.
you
to go.
can't do it.
All right, fair enough. You can go visit them and you can go shoot them, and then
Yeah.
you can tell me how it went. But I'd like to go with you
Okay,
because I do miss regular cheese pizza.
I know. Okay, so we'll save it for when you're done with your
Okay,
challenge.
fair enough. But
Yeah.
we'll do that. But when we come back after break, we'll talk a little bit more about some of your goals and some of the advice you might have for people when it comes to running their social media.
Okay.
I'd love to hear if you have any tips or tricks that people can take in for their social media.
Sounds good.
So, guys, grab yourself a snack. Foodie down Bronx. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Foodie Down Bronx. I'm your host, M, the Hungry Dominican, and I'm joined on set by fashion and food photographer Nikki Gomez. So, Nikki, I wanted to circle back to any advice that you might have for people that want to have an amazing Instagram account, whether it's fashion or food. What do you think are the most important things you need to have those accounts?
I mean, definitely beautiful content.
Right.
I know there's something to be said for doing it on the whim and all that. That's fun. But if you're a model or aspiring model, you definitely want to put up good photos. In the industry, there's a saying, which is you're only as good as your worst photo. So try to put up your best photos and invest in a good photographer if you're interested in that type of line of work. And also, tag clients that you're interested in working with. Hashtag, if you tag them, they most likely will see your picture, whether they respond or not. That's up to them, but at least you get their attention. So I think that's important. And
it's like a form of trolling, but it works.
Yeah, troll
right?
them a little bit.
Sure,
It's
of course.
okay.
Yeah,
It's okay.
totally.
I think if you're promoting yourself and your business, that's a good thing to do.
Right.
And I would say for the food stuff, again, beautiful content, good lighting, natural light. I mean, I think that goes a long way, when it comes
When you do your food photography, do you shoot usually in natural light?
Yeah, 90% of the time.
Natural light.
Natural light. I think that, you know, food is best when it looks natural and like it is when you want to eat it.
Yeah.
So the less manipulation that you do to it, the better it looks.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't. There are some pictures on my feed, especially I think earlier on, where I relied on a lot of artificial lighting because I'd go to these dinners at night and the lighting in the restaurant wasn't that great, so I would have these artificial lights. But I don't take to them anymore. I don't like them anymore. I feel like yes, there's a benefit to using artificial lighting, which means that you could, depending on the plate you have, you could really pop up the colors on certain plates. But I do like natural lighting overall. I try to keep that aesthetic as much as I can. Even if it's a dimly lit restaurant, I'll try my best to maybe in post brighten it up a bit, make the colors pop. But I don't love artificial lighting.
Right.
And I feel like, you know, with your feed, it's like like you said, it's 90% natural light.
Yeah.
But I guess sometimes you have to just fall back on.
Yeah, well, you and I have also like taken plates outside of the restaurant to get the natural light and then run back inside. You know, it's kind of the tricks of the trade that you need to do to have
it's part of the life.
Yeah.
You have to like, you know, be weird about it, and you have to like get up in the middle of a restaurant and then, you know, excuse me, we'll be right back with your cutlery.
Exactly.
We're just going to go outside and take pictures in the middle of the street.
Yeah, don't mind us.
Don't judge us. Please don't judge us. So going back to your fashion photography, you are running a special right now.
Yes.
You have actually you have 2 summer specials going on.
I do.
With your fashion photography. So speak a little bit on that.
Yeah. Well, first I want to celebrate being back in the Bronx. I think that, you know, the Bronx as a backdrop, especially for my fashion stuff, really gives it a whole texture and a flavor that you don't necessarily get in other locations in the city.
I agree. I really do love your Bronx photography. I think it's
Thank you.
Really awesome.
Thank you. A lot of my stuff I try to keep in the Bronx, and also it's always funny to see the models' expression when they tell them to come to the Bronx. They're like, "What?" And then they come like, "This is the Bronx." Yes, this is the Bronx. There's a lot to the Bronx.
I've gotten the same response when I invite people over to the borough to have a dinner or lunch. A lot of people are, there's no exposure to the Bronx for them, so you know, pulling them in here is a little bit tough. But once they're here, like your models, they love it.
Yeah, I've had people ask me about apartments after we do shoots because they want to stay. But yes, I have 2 summer promos going. One of them is a model boot camp, which is like an intensive. And the reason I decided to do this is because oftentimes during my shoots, I'm giving tips and I'm helping, and I work with a lot of new models, so I'm helping them learn about the industry and where they fit. And I find that maybe it's best to just focus on that for a class. So I'm giving a one-on-one intensive, 45 minutes of consultation. So anything, questions that you have about the modeling industry and how to get started, I can help you. And then a 45-minute mini shoot where you actually go home with 5 edited shots to start your portfolio.
Awesome.
And I think that that's a good value to get them started. And then my other promotion is 20% off my packages of 2 looks and 4 looks. So if you have 2 outfit changes and then 4 outfit changes, and with the 4 looks you get professional makeup too by a celebrity makeup artist, so that's kind of awesome.
Awesome.
And you end up with a lot of photos for your portfolio as well.
And so that's at the Nikki Gomez. That's your fashion page.
Yes.
You could find more information on your
the
Instagram.
Nikki Gomez,
At the Nikki Gomez, not Food by the Nikki Gomez.
No, Food by the Nikki Gomez is the food stuff.
There's no specials yet.
Not yet. No.
For any of those. We did a big food festival recently where it was based in another borough, but a neighboring one, Queens. And you and I got to meet a lot of amazing chefs and restaurateurs and people in the food business. We even actually had some amazing food here in the Bronx too from some of the vendors who participated in that food fair that were Bronx based. How has your perception of the food industry changed since you took that job, since you experienced that whole campaign that we spent about 5 months?
Yeah, that was like a real good insider look as to what goes on when you're really just trying to do it on your own, because these are vendors. A lot of them were vendors. While we did go to some restaurants, I'd say a majority of the ones we went to were just people doing it out of their homes, starting their own business, going to all these festivals and selling their food at the festivals. And so that was a real deep personal take on why they do what they do and the love that comes through their food. And that affected me emotionally, because it's like, wow, these people are so passionate about bringing the food from their native countries to people here in New York and in Queens or whomever came from wherever just to try their food. And it was inspirational.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why I was so excited to even take those photos and capture the food, which I will be uploading more of on at Food by the Nikki Gomez. So you'll get to see some more of that as well.
Good. Yeah, I found it to be a really eye-opening experience, and I was happy because I had participated last year with the same food festival, and there weren't too many Bronx vendors. This year
Right.
was a bit different, and we had actually met a lovely family who gave us this giant spread.
Are you talking about the Antiguan food?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah,
Right
yeah.
across from, actually walking distance from here.
Yeah. Maybe we should pay them a visit.
I think we should. But I was really happy to see that because I feel like, you know, there's so much amazing food in the borough, but people, unless you are in the borough, I feel like you don't know
Yeah.
about the selections that are available here. You know, and that's like something like, let's say, Brooklyn, where you don't even live in Brooklyn, but you know what's in Brooklyn.
Yeah, I think that has to change, and hopefully we're changing that by, you know, what you do with the Hungry Dominican, and, you know, more people coming to the Bronx, taking pictures of the food and the offerings here and putting it up on Instagram and really tagging the Bronx. Let people know when they look up the Bronx, they're going to find delicious food here as well, you know, not just Brooklyn or Manhattan.
Yeah, no, I had mentioned it to Omar in the first segment. That's I've always wanted a platform where I could just talk to people from the borough, or even people that aren't from here, and just expose them to the artists here, the creatives, the chefs in this borough, and just, you know, open their eyes to what's available here.
Yeah.
So doing that with you was pretty intense. But like I said, I was really happy that there were more people from the Bronx participating because it even opened up my eyes. I mean, we bumped into a Trinidadian restaurant a few days ago.
Yeah.
We had doubles, where you had doubles for the first time.
That was amazing.
And it's you know, it's things like that that I don't think a lot of people outside of the Bronx understand, that there's just a lot more than, you know, arroz con habichuela and all that stuff, and what
Right.
people just assume is the signature dishes of you know, or maybe they just think it's Latin food or Latin American food, and that's all.
I think that's a lot of what people think.
And I think that's, you know, yes, it is that, but it's not only that.
Right.
And so I'm glad that you got that exposure, because when I first got the exposure, it really opened up my eyes to what's in here, which is like an amazing thing.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
I'm happy that we did that. So before we sort of wrap up, I just need to know, what is your favorite Bronx restaurant?
Favorite Bronx restaurant?
You've
well,
mentioned a few, but I just need to know which is the spot that you just can't get enough of. Because I can tell you right now that besides Seis Vecinos, there's one that for me is pretty close by that
what's
I love.
that one?
188.
Oh my gosh,
Bakery
yeah.
Cuchifrito. It was the restaurant that was shown in Anthony Bourdain's episode.
Yeah.
Where he goes to the BX, he sits down to this amazing little Cuchifrito spot. I love that spot.
Yeah.
So what's yours?
Well, that place definitely has my heart. That reminds me of just growing up and the food that we had growing up. But since we had left for a while, left the borough, I was missing Louie and Ernie's. I really was. I was
Okay.
missing Bronx
enough.
pizza. I was missing that sausage slice. So at the top of my mind, it's Louie and Ernie's.
Louis and Ernie's.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're making me miss it too.
I know, the pizza is just so good.
All right, just give me that month, and then we'll be back, and
All right.
we'll start eating our cheese pizza.
You got
So I want to thank you for being a part of my first episode.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it, of course.
Of course.
And we'll know where to find you on Instagram, the Nikki Gomez, and Food by the Nikki Gomez
Yes.
as well. And you're also on Facebook
Yes, you can find me on Facebook at the Nikki Gomez as well.
as well. Do you tweet often?
I don't
Are you
tweet.
Are you
No.
a tweeter?
I'm not a tweeter. You tell me
No?
about the tweets and I check out what you
I
tell
barely
me.
tweet either. It's okay. It's fine. Okay, well, you know what? We'll keep it at that. So find yourself on Instagram. Well, you can find yourself.
I can find myself
Yourself.
on Instagram.
On Instagram and Facebook. Well, that's all for Foodie Down Bronx. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you to our guests today, Omar Canales and Nikki Gomez, for joining us. Tune into Foodie Down Bronx every Thursday at 6:30 p.m. here on BronxNet Optimum 67 and FiOS 33. Also tune in on the go at bronxnet.org. From BronxNet to the world, I'm your host, the Hungry Dominican, wishing you all a happy and safe 4th of July. And remember to feed your mind, feed your body, and if you see me coming along, feed me. Adios. Let's feast, people. Come.